Good evening. I call the City Council public hearing on April 1st, 2025 to order. Please stand. Just, bow your heads for a moment of silence. Thank you. Councilor Walker, lead us in the pledge.
I pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. You may be seated. Madam Clerk, call to order. Roll call.
Councilor Credo.
Present.
Councilor Deja
Here.
Councilor Horn.
Here.
Councilor Fitzpatrick.
Here.
Councilor Fontenot.
Present.
Councilor Herman.
Present.
Councilor Carolean.
Present.
Councilor Richardson.
Present.
Councilor Sullivan.
Present.
Councilor Turner.
Present.
Councilor Walker.
Present.
Deputy Mayor Hammond.
Present.
Mayor Callahan.
Present, we have a quorum. We have an amendment to public hearing as an amendment to Chapter 275 of the zoning ordinance regarding dimensional requirements in the Granite State Ridge. I'll turn it over to Director Scalar and the Planning Director, Mr. Crichton. So how this works for the folks in the audience is we'll hear from the two directors on what this zoning change is about. And the council will be able to ask some questions, and then we'll have the public hearing. And these two may be able to answer some of the questions you have at the end of that.
Good evening. For those of you who I haven't met yet, I'm Seth Creighton, the city's Planning and Zoning Director. So these proposed changes are really for the Route 11 corridor. That corridor is called the Granite Ridge Zoning District. A couple of years ago, the city changed it from a strictly commercial zoning district to a mixed-use zoning district. So back two or so years ago, an allowance was made in the zoning ordinance to permit residential uses in that district. Prior to that, from 2014-ish or before to 2 years ago, it was only commercial. So when that change was made, some concerns were raised that Route 11 didn't want to become a corridor lined by multi-family high-rise buildings. And in doing that, or thinking about that, a fix was to increase the setbacks. So what were very small setbacks for commercial uses grew substantially to remedy the concept that all you would see are apartment buildings on Route 11. Sometimes the best ideas are well-intended and they make a lot of sense on paper, but when they start being applied in the real world, we find out that they don't make a lot of sense. And that's the case with the setbacks. So as you see, it starts on page 7 and goes to page 8. There's very few changes proposed. What you see is that some of these setbacks that did exist are being reduced, primarily side setbacks going from 50 feet to 20 feet. The rear setback, that's of course the side of the property that does not front on a public road, so that's 100 feet. And then there were some questions about, well, what about lots along Route 11? Do they have the same front setback as other portions? And what you're not seeing is all of the setbacks. So what we're presenting is only the changes. So these were all vetted by the planning board. And in all honesty, that was done almost exactly a year ago. The planning board is step 1. Step 2 is the planning board's recommendation comes to you all for a final consideration and vote. And just due to human error, that exercise of bringing it from the planning board to you just got buried in other paper. So we recognize that. There's several development concepts coming to the planning department right now, and the developers were aware of the action from the planning board a year ago, and they said, hey, why does your zoning ordinance not match what the planning board passed a year ago? And we realized then, it never got adopted by city council. So we're here now presenting what we should have presented a year ago to you. I guess if there's any questions, I'm happy to help answer those, and Director Scala is here too.
Any Councilor DeJavois?
Thank you for the background. On paragraph 5A, it says lot coverage is 60%. Is that a maximum?
Yes, that is maximum.
Should it say maximum, or is it clear with the sort of state of the art language that would be implied by saying lot coverage is 60%?
We should clarify it further and add the word maximum lot coverage is 60%.
Thank you.
Councilor Fontenot?
Thank you. So one of the concerns that I always heard over the years was from people on 10 Rod Road, that would these big high-story, multi-story buildings, apartment buildings, commercial buildings, whatever, be kind of overlooking their rural properties on 10 Rod Road. So does this change anything up there that would concern them?
Not these changes tonight, no. I think 2 years ago so this is the second go-around of changing the setbacks. I think 2 years ago, the first go-around, those setbacks were increased at that time.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Anything to add, Director Scala? Are you all set? Anything do you want to add? No. No, okay. Thank you. Okay. All right, we'll open up for the public hearing. Just come on up, state your name and address, and specifically about the zoning change for the Ridge.
Good evening, Human Ward 6 Board Clerk in exile. The zoning ordinance that you're planning to pass tonight is a really bad one. This is an example of those things that fall into the category of good ideas poorly executed. For starters, the ordinance isn't even grammatical. There's this paragraph in there about the under garage. It's not even grammatical English. And on top of that, the ordinance, or the amendment to the ordinance, is ambiguous. For example, there's a part where it says that an area should be highly landscaped. Language like that introduces a lot of problems. For example, the word should, right? It doesn't say must or shall, which would make it a legally binding requirement. It says should. It's a suggestion. We shouldn't be putting suggestions in our ordinances. And it uses the term highly landscaped. What's to distinguish an area which is highly landscaped from an area which is moderately landscaped or lightly landscaped? There's no definition of what it means to be highly landscaped in the ordinance. So this is not a this ordinance is not adequate. It's not ready to be passed. But it's a good idea. It just needs more work.
Thank you.
Susan Rice, 10 Rod Road. I have to respectfully disagree that it is not going to have any impact on 10 Rod Road. I've stated before that with a snap of a finger, and it appears that the urgency of Waterstone, last minute, it's ill-prepared, and the review of the planning board was held on March 17th. It then mysteriously appeared on the city council agenda on March 18th to hold the public hearing tonight. It has never been reviewed by codes and ordinances as well. And once again, my guess is that this will be passed within 16 minutes and 45 seconds of me finishing my comments. And this month's public meeting on codes and ordinances has already been canceled. Let's just take a step back. Our master plan, and I've spoken about this before, the last time that was updated was in 2001. We're looking at 24, 25 years old. The master plan is the guiding piece of how you create your zoning ordinance for the city. In 2001, this city was very different from what it looks like today. And I'm not even sure if it's even on the scope or on the horizon to be updated. And we just seem to keep cherry picking and changing things as certain developers would like to have things within our city. When you do that, you open it up to more variances, more special exceptions, more conditional use permits, and more appeals of administrative decisions. These developers all along this corridor, and it's just not the Waterstone property, but this is a significant chunk of land that we're talking about, that these proposed regulations would be for. They didn't even give it a try. My strong concerns regarding the proposed amendment to Chapter 275 of the zoning ordinance for the Granite Ridge District, particularly the increase in the building height to 125 feet and the reduction in setbacks. These changes will dramatically increase the density. Let's stop and think about it. You can go up to 125 feet with this building if you provide underground parking. Let's use a little common sense. What's the height of a parking garage or an underground parking spot? 10, 12 feet? Take that off the 125. You still have 10 or 12 feet. They can add another whole layer of residential units. We've probably gone from a 10-story apartment building to an 11-story apartment building. It also causes infrastructure and create a long-term traffic and safety concerns for our community. Height increases equals more units, more congestion, and more infrastructure. Raising the maximum height for residential and mixed-use buildings from 100 feet to 125 feet is not just a design change, it is a substantial increase in density. More height means more residential units, more cars, and more demand on our roads, our water, our sewer, and our emergency services. And I'd like to interject that, has anybody even gone to talk to Senator Gray? He was very instrumental in getting the new, or what will be happening with regard to the widening of Route 11. And with this impact, we're just not talking about the Waterstone property, we're talking about the whole entire district, which goes down Neshoba Drive, where the new light is being proposed, and out Flat Rock Bridge Road. Has an updated infrastructure impact study been conducted to support this increase? Has emergency response been evaluated to ensure that a 125-foot residential structure can be adequately serviced? How will this impact our water, sewer, and public services with an influx of new residents? Without clear answers, approving these changes would be premature and could lead to major infrastructure failures in the future. Reduced setbacks equals overcrowding and harm to the abutters. The proposed reduction in side setbacks from 50 feet to 20 feet is just a bit alarming. This will significantly reduce buffers between properties, increase noise, and alter the character of the district. Let's just stop and think about all the land along 10 Rod Road that's in the agricultural district, and there's several horse farms, and there's one in particular that I know abuts this. Is that fair to somebody who has horses or has other farm animals? And now they're going to have 50-foot or 20-foot setback off their property lines. Has anybody even thought about that? Has anybody even gone and talked to these people? Something about kindness and community, people. This will significantly reduce the buffers between properties. Oh, I already read that, sorry about that. Additionally, the 300-foot Route 11 buffer is misleading. It still allows for 60% lot coverage, which contradicts the intent of maintaining open space. Traffic impacts in State Route 11 expansion. With the state planning to expand Route 11 with additional lanes and install a new traffic light, this zoning amendment is being considered at a very critical moment. How will the increased height and density interact with those ongoing transportation changes? Will secondary roads be able to handle the additional traffic? Has the council reviewed a traffic study that incorporates the state's plan on Route 11 and its improvements? It is, I think, irresponsible to approve a zoning change of this magnitude without fully understanding the impact on evolving transportation infrastructure. The city must synchronize zoning decisions with infrastructure improvements and not rush ahead with changes that could worsen congestion. I ask for further review in all of this. I strongly urge the council and the planning board to pause this amendment. What is the rush? What really is the rush? What's another month or two? What's 3 months to make sure that we're doing this right? This is going to have a lot of impact. This is a whole district that you're changing, one that has seen a dramatic amount of building and congestion, and we got to do this right. Why the rush? Smart development requires careful planning, not reactive zoning changes that prioritize developers over our community. We all live here. Probably most of us shop up there, and we've had to deal with the congestion, and it's only going to get worse. Now, let's just look at it at a different point of view. When you come off the highway, especially in the summertime, the Spalding Turnpike looks kind of nice as you drive up. You have that New Hampshire feel to it, and you get off, and if you get off the exit and you're going up Route 11, do we want to be looking at 10 and 11-foot high buildings? You are going to see them. I don't care how hard you try, you are going to see them. We are the gateway to the mountains. We also are the gateway to the ocean from those that are coming from the Winnipesaukee area. Do we want that? Do we want that aesthetic look coming into our city? We have a very pretty city, and I've talked to a lot of people, and one of the things that people come here for, I believe, is we have that charm. We have that small town city feel. Do we really want to look like the Bronx? Do we want to look like Brooklyn? I don't think so. Do we really need another stack and pack community like that? Is there something else that we could put in there to help with our housing needs? Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? You're hearing that, I close the public hearing, move on to the regular city council meeting on April 1st, 2025. Oh, I'm sorry, yeah. You're right. Staff, any follow-up before I move on? Thank you.
If you look at page 7, number 3, it's right in the middle of the page. To Human's point, I think we are missing a word from a grammar perspective. So it reads, this may be increased to 125 feet if an under garage proposed under 80%, et cetera. So in between garage and proposed, we should add the word is, if that was something you might want to vote on. And
You see to say that again because it says garage is proposed. What do you want it to say?
Garage proposed.
letter 3B, as in boy, between garage and proposed should be the word is.
Okay,
We got it right
we got
in
the
the
wrong
letter
one.
C underneath it, but B, we missed a word.
all right.
And I don't have much to add beyond that, but if anyone has a question while I'm here.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Morgan next.
I was just reading about the landscaping. It states that, under 5D, states that it's the most important part of these parcels, but then goes on to basically make it optional. Is that something that you think needs to be changed from your perspective?
So just for clarity, this is the section for lots that abut Route 11. So the vision is between Route 11 and the development, there should be some landscaping to Mrs. Rice's point, keep that New Hampshire feel, don't have buildings right up against the road, have some naturalized vegetation between the two. So this is one of those, it's tough. We try to define everything as clear as possible. Sometimes we can't, and we have to interpret what should be highly landscaped means. As a zoning administrator, I don't like being put in that position either, to be honest with you, of making a judgment call on a case-by-case basis, or for the public or the developers not having something in black and white. This specific one, I don't know how. Every property is different. That's the beauty and the nuance of my job. What applies for one parcel might not be sufficient or adequate for another. So this would be an interpretation thing from my position as a zoning administrator. Should be highly landscaped. What does that mean? Well, it depends on what your lot is. And what are you proposing for landscaping? Are trees appropriate? Are bushes? Are you in an area that's a valley or a peak? I'd love to hear if there's language that could clarify this a bit, but it might be one of those that it remains gray and we can work towards that.
Can I just add something to that? So the site plan regulations, which everyone has to go through a site plan if they're going to use this section of the zoning ordinance, is very extensive on landscaping. And when they come to the planning board, they have to have a landscaping plan as part of their site plan approval. And then whatever the planning board approves as part of their site plan for landscaping is then enforceable. So I think that's probably what Seth is talking about, where we don't do cookie cutter lines in here because it's not cookie cutter depending what your use is. But when you go into the site plan regs, depending what the use that you're proposing for that lot, then you're working with the planning board to come up with a landscaping plan that makes sense for what you're doing there. And then that ultimately becomes enforceable.
Yes, thank you. Councilor Walker.
Yes, in the original, your minimum setback from Route 11 was 200 feet. Am I reading it correctly here? You're changing that to 50 feet?
Yep, for the original, the minimum setback from Route 11 is 200 feet.
Now you're changing it to 50 feet. So you can have a high-rise residential building with a 50-foot setback from Route 11.
No, I believe the residential is 300 feet.
Well, this is just for the commercial, that change. Okay.
And in that area, I believe you have to be 25 feet or less in height.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's the intent. We may want to look at, on page 7, sort of the first section that starts the ordinance language. It has a strike through. It's letter A, non-residential or mixed-use buildings. I think we want to maintain non-residential and only strike out mixed use. Apologies for that.
Because that's why I'm going, ooh, you're putting a high-rise building real close to the Route 11.
Right, no, and that's not the intent.
And second of all, I agree, the should be a shall if you want it, not a should. A should is saying I can or I might not on the landscaping.
Makes sense.
However you want to define highly landscaped is, like you said, is in an individual site plan. Doesn't have to be in here, but that's fine.
Okay.
But it should say shall, if you want it.
Yep.
The way you got it there, I can put my building in and make it gravel. Thank you.
Thank you. Counselor DeJavois, then Counselor Richardson.
I have a question on that. If we change should to shall, does that constitute a material change and require this to go back to the planning board then?
We'll turn it over to the city
I
attorney.
don't think so, because, again, like I just talked about, no matter what it says there, should or shall, when you come to the planning board for your site plan approval, that approval is a shall. It's enforceable at that point. But I agree, shall is probably a more appropriate word there, but it's not such a major change considering the site plan approval process that you would have to send it back to the planning board.
Okay, thank you.
Counselor Richardson.
Just for clarification, Seth, the rear structure setback is at 100 feet from the property line, correct? And there's no change to that.
Correct. Yep, currently in a proposed.
Structure setback is 100 feet from the rear line. Okay.
Counselor Fontenot, then Counselor Sullivan.
Thank you. Also, one clarification. You stated earlier that this really had been vetted through the planning board last year.
Correct.
So this didn't just happen a day before our last meeting. This was thoroughly vetted a year ago through the planning board, and they approved these changes. And to reiterate, and I know there's several members here that have also served on the planning board, and in between this document and the site plan approval is planning board approval. And so anything that, the landscaping, et cetera, a developer is not able to just take this form and do his landscaping based on this ordinance. They have to go for planning board approval, which is pretty thorough, and especially on projects like this. And also in that 300-foot setback from Route 11, it talks about this area is intended to support smaller, single-story outparcels that contain commercial uses. So I think we covered those.
Thank you. Counselor Sullivan.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I guess to the shall issue, I mean, I was going to say, many people have already said it, but to my experience, working on these, on the Conservation Commission and observing the planning board, I feel like the applicants generally work with the city boards to try to get their landscaping plans and other things right. I don't think it's usually a force them to landscape, but if it goes to shall, I'm fine with that too. I had the same question about the 25-foot addition for the parking garage. I didn't want to sound stupid and bring it up, but since it was brought up, it does seem excessive to allow for 25 feet extra on a building for a parking garage. And I could see, had the same thought that they might be trying to add more stories to the building to get to that extent. Could it be worded as such that it can be increased up to 125 feet, you know, that it's only for the addition of the parking garage? So whatever the height of the parking garage is, or I'm sorry, the garage underneath, is what can be added to it. I mean, I do find that excessive. I had the same thought. I don't think 25 feet is necessary for one level of parking. Is that the standard, 25 feet extra? I assumed it was a rounding number is what they were using. It, you know, it wasn't going to say 12 feet.
If I might.
Yeah, I know where you're going to go with this, so I'll let you do it.
I was the one who proposed that at the planning board when it was vetted through the planning board. There was a lot of discussion over it. And the thought at the time was that if we could get the parking lots whittled down a little bit, we'd give them the extra height on the building to get as many cars underneath the building as possible and cut out some of the asphalt. That was the whole reason for it.
Okay, follow up?
Yes.
So I guess the reason, I understand that, and I think it's a good idea to park, you know, the less, I don't think that's increasing the amount of impervious, I'm sorry, I don't think that's decreasing the amount of impervious pavement, which would be a goal, I would think. But if you do allow that extra 25 feet, and you're saying, oh, some parking is going under the building, if it did add 10 more apartments, that's 10 more cars now than it would have been that would now be parking outside of the building. So I just don't see how it can't be worded to say that, you know, this is allowed so you can put parking under the building and you can't add any more space to the building.
I just want to add something to this too. I mean, are they, Seth, are they limited in how many apartments are going to go? I mean, there's a maximum amount of apartments that are going to go there, correct?
Yeah, sorry, I don't have, there's a lot of pages to this, and there's multiple sections of the ordinance. I think there is a density calculation, so a certain land area is needed to support each residential unit. So I'm going to make this up, but for every 1,000 square feet of land area, you can have one residential unit. I don't know exactly what those numbers are, if it's 500 square feet for every one. There's some sort of density.
Director Scala, do you know the number of apartments that are going in there? I think it's between 220 something and 240.
It's like 214.
214?
But it's based mostly on the commercial residential calculation, the 55-45,
Yeah.
based on the gross square footage of the lot, which is 20-something acres. And whereas 55% of that has to be used or should be used for commercial.
Commercial.
And the 45 for the resi.
Thank you.
If I could make one last follow-up.
You can have one more follow-up, then we'll go
follow-up.
over to Councilor
I mean, I
DeGioia.
guess I'm just going to reiterate. I think that in the discussion I hear or heard, when this really was talking about allowing the residential use there, there was concerns about high-rise buildings, and that was a major concern. So I think adding 25% to the building height for a parking garage does seem excessive. I just think that it should be worded, I understand the intent is for under-building parking. We should just word it as such that the only height that can be added above 100 feet is for the under-garage parking.
Councilor DeGioia.
Thank you, Your Honor. There's just a minor editing note, but I noticed that we've got the strike through on the major paragraph A, but on B, everything under residential structures is stricken through, but not B residential structures at the very end there. So I just would extend it to that, unless there's more that follows that's not included in this document.
I just saw the same thing a minute ago. That needs some work. I'm hearing there's several potential minor changes, and maybe that's a major one that we should clarify. It's not clear. See what you're saying? So residential stricken through. That would be applicable to everything, not just that.
Councilor Walker.
Yes, to clarify Councilor Sullivan's points, under 1C, or 3C rather, mixed-use building height of 100 feet. This may be increased to 125 if an under-garage is proposed under 80% of the gross floor area of the building. So it tells you you can go to 125 if you put it under a garage.
Councilor Sullivan.
Correct, yeah, but if the under-garage is 8 feet, right? You say it's 8, I mean, I drive an SUV and I can't fit in some under-building parking garages, so let's say it's 10 feet. That gives them 15 more feet of building that they could add on that's not needed because of the garage. So it's an entire another floor. That's my point is, I think the under-building parking is a great idea. I do think that allowing them to make it taller, it should only be increased over 100 by the amount required for the under-building parking. That sounds reasonable to me, especially if people were concerned about the height of the buildings.
Your response?
Yeah, I'm just going to say what Councilor Sullivan is saying, but in different words. I think what you're saying is, you're suggesting that structure height be maxed out at 100, and that's for usable space. If there's a garage underneath, then it can go up to 125 feet, but still the usable space is only 100 feet. So if the garage is 8 feet or 25 feet, above it can only be 100 feet of usable space for residential or I guess mixed use if possible.
Did I answer that?
You can answer.
Yeah,
that.
I understand that. I guess what I'm saying is a concern was height and high-rise buildings. And so giving them 125 feet, now they can have 9-foot ceilings instead of 8-foot ceilings inside each level, right? They didn't need that. They don't need 9-foot ceilings to have parking under the building. They're just gonna make them bigger buildings, and the building's gonna be taller. I guess my point is, if 100 feet was previously prescribed, why go higher? You know, if it's for parking, it should go 100 feet plus what's needed for parking. That's what I'm saying.
Okay, question for the attorney, city attorney. It looks like there's some significant changes here. Does this have to go back to the planning board? It should that be our recommendation?
Well, right now, you're under public hearing, so you
Right.
can't do anything.
I know, but when we get to that.
Later on, when you get there, if there are specific recommendations, I think y'all need to vote on them. And if you get a majority and they change it in a significant manner, then it has to go back to the planning board.
You just need to give us guidance if you consider it as significant.
Right.
All right. All right, very good.
Mr. Mayor, just for clarification, no developer has come to me and said they wanted to build a 100-foot building. The tallest has been proposed has been 4 stories. And the cost associated with a 10-story building, essentially, I don't know if that would make sense for some of these developers. You would have to get, what they would have to get to make that feasible. I don't know if they can at this point. Not to say that the chance isn't zero that someone might propose it someday, but with the remaining land that we have there and the developers I've spoken with, no one has even come close to, no one's even suggested 6 stories. So if that makes anyone feel any
So
better.
we should leave it at 100.
Well, that's
That's what the
I'm
argument
just saying
sounds like.
what my experience is with the developers. No one suggested that. So.
Thank you. Yes, Councilor Fitzpatrick.
If I may, we're going to be addressing this later on the agenda. If it's okay with the city manager to have our staff members go into an office and write up these changes that we've been talking about, and they could bring them back to us, and then we can see what we're going to be voting on as amendments to the main motion. Did I make any sense with what I just said?
Yeah, that's actually in our rules with the significant changes. It has to be in writing.
You know,
So
and
that's your
we're going to have
recommendation.
some time. If Seth could just go write it all up and pass it out to us in 10 or 15 minutes, then we'd be able to vote on it either as a package or one at a time, and then the city attorney would be able to give us a better informed opinion. That's just an idea.
Thank you. All right, so we're going to close the public hearing, move on to our regular meeting. Thank you. Okay, we're already down to number 5 here. We already did a roll call in the last meeting, so accepted the minutes. Accept the motion, you accept the city council meetings from March 4th, 2025.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes carry. We had a special meeting on March 18th, 2025. Consideration for approval.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes carry. Communications from the city manager. You can do it, yeah. Yeah.
Thank you, Your Honor. Before I get started, I just wanted to take a moment that we have our Assistant City Attorney here this evening, Andrew Krokel. I just wanted to, if you could just stand up for wave hello so you guys can put the face to the name here. He's settled into the office quite well and just wanted to point out the face to the name. So welcome, Andrew. Good to see you.
I would just add that he's comes from the Attorney General's office and he is a Rochester resident. Yes.
Is the assistant city attorney still the city prosecutor?
Yeah, one is, he's not the city prosecutor, we still have the city
Oh, you
prosecutor.
still have a separate city,
Yes.
oh, you've added staff since I, nice.
Okay, so I have 2 other items for you this evening. The first is that, as you know, Chief George was recently hired as our new fire chief, and following his promotion, we posted for his replacement as assistant fire chief. I am pleased to share that effective April 6th, Lieutenant Nick Marique will be promoted to assistant fire chief for Rochester. Nick has been a well-respected member of Rochester Fire for over 20 years and has served as a firefighter, captain, and lieutenant in the department. Congratulations to Nick, and we look forward to the future of Rochester Fire with Mr. Marique in his new role. As we conclude the hiring processes for our fire chief and assistant fire chief positions, both serve as good examples of effective succession planning in the city and progress towards council's strategic objective to support employee retention and attraction as part of goal number 4, our city maintains financial stability. Supporting the growth and development of our staff is not only the right thing to do, but it builds strength in the organization and promotes financial stability through reductions in turnover. We will continue to prioritize employee retention and attraction efforts in support of this goal. And the other item I have this evening is that in celebration of Arbor Day, Eversource, in collaboration with the Arbor Day Foundation, has selected Rochester for a tree giveaway for our residents. The city has partnered with Eversource to host the event on May 7th at the Rochester Ice Arena. Trees will be available on a first-come, first-served basis while supplies last, and more than 100 trees and shrubs will be given away at no cost to Rochester residents. Sizes will range from 3 to 5 feet tall, and species will not grow to heights that would impede utility lines within the city. That would be a little counterproductive. This initiative is part of Eversource's broader commitment to environmental sustainability across its 3-state service area, and the mission of the event is to promote sustainability and increase green space throughout the community. By planting trees strategically, residents can help reduce energy costs, improve air quality, and enhance their property. To reserve a tree, residents must visit eversource.com to complete the online application. The website features an interactive tool which will help residents select the most suitable tree or shrub based on their property's available space and energy-saving potential. Once an application is submitted, residents will receive confirmation of their selected tree and additional pickup details for the event. Applications opened on March 24th, and I would encourage interested residents to submit their applications soon, given the first-come, first-served nature of the initiative. Tree pickup is scheduled for Tuesday, May 7th at the Rochester Ice Arena, located at 63 Lowell Street, and residents who reserve a tree must pick it up on their selected date and time. For more information and to reserve a tree, visit eversource.com. Thank you.
Thank you. This is a beautiful segue. Mayor's proclamation. In 1872, J. Sterling Morton proposed to the Nebraska Board of Agriculture that a special day be set aside for the planting of trees. And whereas this holiday called Arbor Day was first observed with a planting of more than 1 million trees in Nebraska, and whereas Arbor Day is now observed throughout the nation and the world, and whereas trees can reduce the erosion of our precious topsoil by wind and water, cut heating and cooling costs, moderate the temperature, clean our air, and produce oxygen and promote habitat for wildlife. And whereas trees are a renewable resource, giving us paper, wood for our homes, fuel for our fires, and countless other wood products. And whereas trees in our city increase property values, enhance the economic vitality of business areas, and beautify a community. And whereas trees, wherever they are planted, are a source of joy and spiritual renewal. And whereas Rochester has been recognized for 24 years as a Tree City USA member by the National Arbor Day Foundation, and desires to continue its tree planting ways. Now, therefore, I, Mayor Paul G. Callahan, through the authority vested in me as mayor of the city of Rochester and the state of New Hampshire, do hereby proclaim that April 25th, 2025 is Arbor Day in the city of Rochester, and I do support our community's efforts to protect our trees and woodlands and to support our city's efforts to maintain our environment by planting trees and herbs and promote the well-being in present and future generations. Thank you. That's all I have from the mayor. And move on, proclamation, petitions, appointments. So, Councilor Walker, appointments.
Yes, Your Honor, we have 2 appointments tonight. The first will be the Appointments Committee met, and we unanimously selected Philip Toole for the Parking Commission, seat B, term to expire 1/2/2026. And
I recommend Philip Toole to the Parking Commission, Rochester resident, seat B, term to expire 1/2/2026.
I make a motion that all nominations cease and the city clerk cast 1 ballot for Philip Toole.
Second.
Any discussion? Councilor DeJavois.
Just to clarify, in the packet, it says term to expire 1/2/2027.
The packet was incorrect or
Okay,
little.
I just want to clarify that,
Yeah.
so, all right.
We corrected the date.
Got it, thank you.
Thanks. Thank you very much. Is there a second? You got the second? All those in favor say aye. 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 Opposed? Ayes carry.
The second appointment is for Tate Adams, Zoning Board Adjustment, seat E, term to expire 1/2/2026. 2026, and it was unanimously recommended.
I recommend that Tate Adams to the Zoning Board of Adjustment, CD, term to expire on 1/2/2026.
And I make a motion that the all nominations cease and the city clerk cast one ballot for Tate Adams.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Ayes carry.
And that's all I have, Your Honor.
Code ordinances, you're not having a meeting this month?
No. The last meeting, we reviewed statistics from code enforcement, but there were no action items. And with no action items again for this month, we decided to cancel.
Okay. Councilor Credo, Community Development Committee, anything you want to add?
Yeah, I am happy to announce that last month, we finalized our proposed municipal budget in the committee, and it looks like at this point, we are $30,000 under last year's budget as well.
Thank you.
It should be noted that Rochester Main Street did not apply, and that is the difference from last year to this year.
Okay, thank you very much. Finance Committee. Committee recommends the opioid committee fund disbursements recommendations, considerations for approval. Now, when we met as Finance Committee, we voted 6-1 to give the entire money to Hope on Haven Hill. Councilor Fonda, who chaired the Mayor's Ad Hoc Committee, was unable to make that meeting. So I'm giving him an opportunity now to speak on behalf of those groups.
Your Honor, I'd like to make a motion to to postpone to a time certain this proposals, and I'll speak to it if I get a second.
Second.
I'd like to have the opioid committee come in on a workshop, do a formal presentation to us with the agencies behind them, so we can actually ask questions of the agencies. And then in the meantime of the month, Finance Department can contact the DOJ to see if any of their proposals meets their guidelines and get their vetting. And then on next month's meeting, we can make an educated vote on the subject matter.
Okay, and I'll just speak on that. That motion came up in front of the Finance Committee, and it was voted down 6-1 to table it, to bring those committees. We felt we had the information in front of us to vote on it. So obviously, there's more discussion. Councilor Sullivan.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, so my question is just for clarification on the motion and on tonight. If this motion failed, let's say, can members of the council still make recommendations on how to spend the money, or is it either has to all go to Hope on Haven Hill, or it has to go to another meeting, I guess is my question. Do we need to do this motion for any other option? I guess is my question.
Right. The motion in front of you is the whole money goes to Hope on Haven Hill. Somebody wants to make an amendment to that, to give the money to someone else, they can do that.
It could happen tonight, and then it
Could
could be
happen
voted
tonight,
on.
yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. And yes, Councilor Fontenot.
So I won't oppose the motion to table for 1 month. I think there's some value to that. You know, I came prepared tonight to, first of all, I guess I want to start out by apologizing. I want to apologize to the mayor, to the council, to the finance committee, to the opioid committee, and certainly to the stakeholders, because it was really my responsibility to either be at the finance committee or have somebody there representing what the opioid committee had done. And I was not there. I did not, again, I'm not going to make excuses. I didn't realize that was coming up on that particular night, and I was out of town, and I did not have somebody else there in my place. So I apologize for that. I think that's why, I think it's my fault that we're in the position that we're in tonight. You know, with that said, I came prepared to make a small talk about why the opioid committee did make the recommendations that they did, the work that the opioid committee have done over the past couple of years, and you know, that it was not just, we didn't just pick names out of a hat. We went through a process. We actually had a scoring process that the finance director helped us create. We had input from the police department, from the school department, from the welfare department, not just input, but we had representatives from those departments participate in the committee with us, and they actively took part in the process of vetting these different organizations. With some of that said, I also, when I watched the Finance Committee meeting, had the concern, it was really the first time I had heard the possibility that if we issue funds to one of these organizations, they fail to report or follow through with their process as we expect, that the chance could be the council or the city is left holding the bag, and we then need to refund that money from the general fund. And so I don't think any of us want to take that chance or opportunity. So I really feel that whatever process we take before we send any money out to anybody, that we ask the finance director to contact the Attorney General's office and assure us that that whatever organizations we have picked are going to meet the muster, so to speak. So I do think that Councilor Walker's motion to table for 1 month gives us the opportunity to ask the finance director to send the 4 recommendations that we made out and find out if in fact those will all qualify, or if 1 or 2 of them does not, or 3 of them do not, we'll know we shouldn't be voting on those, period. In the meantime, I would like to give the opportunity to those that worked on the committee a chance to come here and make a presentation and show the council exactly how we came about the process. I came with a little bit of preparation. We had prepared these matrix forms that each one of the members on the committee filled out and scored individually, and then when we brought them back to the meeting, we then tallied the scores and had further discussions about how to award the funds. So I guess I'll wait. I'll stop with that and let Councilor Walker's motion continue, and then if it's.
Yeah, I just want to follow up to what Councilor Fano said. I appreciate what you said. The plan all along is if we do approve a group, nonprofit group for this money, part of that agreement is we enter into an agreement with them. Part of that process is getting Attorney General's approval. So the thought process with the finance director was once they got council's approval, he would go to the Attorney General's office and ask them, okay, does this meet the criteria? That's how the plan was going to work. The opioid committee, I appreciate what they did. I know Tim, you're in that group. It was working for 3 years. And again, we're certainly going to go through the Attorney General's office before we disperse any funds. And there's a process. We just don't write a check and give it to the group. There's a process that Mr. Sullivan works out with them like we've done with the other groups. So I think you had your hand up, Counselor?
I did.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Your Honor. It sounds like a lot of great work was done on this, and I would just, speaking for those who are not privy to the committee and that information, I think it would be beneficial to the rest of our counselors to hear that information prior to asking to vote on it. So I would support that.
Councilor DeJavois.
Thank you, Your Honor. I would say if there's an opportunity, if we do postpone to the next month's meeting, that if we can get as many of the applicants as possible to come speak to.
That's the
right?
intent.
Okay. Well, I understand having the committee itself come and give a presentation, but also hearing from all the applicants who are able to participate would be appreciated as well.
That is part of the motion.
Councilor Sullivan and Councilor Credo.
Thank you very much, Your Honor. I guess for clarification for me from Councilor Fontenot, were you suggesting that we go to the Attorney General's office for the 4 that were already selected, or you're saying you were just commenting that whatever goes forward goes?
That was my understanding of how it would be handled, but I'm really okay with if the finance director would prefer that the council votes first and then whatever organizations are selected, he approaches the Attorney General's office with that. I'm fine with that, too. I just wanted to, I didn't want the vote to be cast in doubt that an organization that we're voting for may in fact not qualify. So whichever way it happens is fine with me.
And my reason for asking that was because you did already do an RFP and got applications. So would the suggestion that you're kind of making be to reissue an RFP and get more? Or you're saying only based on the ones that you already received that I believe was distributed to us this week
Yeah,
electronically?
my suggestion was just based on what we have received
Okay.
at this point.
Thank you.
Councilor Credo.
Yeah, just to speak to Councilor DeJarbois and what he had said, I actually am looking out in the audience and seeing representatives from some of those agencies here. So I would just like to throw that out as well as another option if the council would like to hear from some of them. I do see Carrie Norton from Hope on Haven Hill out there. Good to see you, Carrie. And just to throw out there what Tim and Councilor Walker are saying, first off, I think it's important for every committee to have every piece of information before a determination is made and we move forward, right? I think we can all agree on that. That's transparency. That's how we gain the information to make the most informed decisions that we can make as a council. With that said, I also think that we need to move forward carefully, making sure, again, that the recommendations that we make are going to cut the mustard, right? So I would just like to throw out that observation that A, we do have people here that could speak to some of those issues, and B, that everybody have that information and you get to hear from that committee before we make a vote.
Councilor Horn.
I'd just like to say that, you know, we all have little time to look at things sometimes. And we need to make a decision as soon as we can, because these people are looking to make decisions on their budgets and other issues that are coming up. A lot of these individuals are looking at other possible cuts in where they're going to get some of their funds from. The other part is that I, as a councilman, have had a chance to rethink some of the actions that were taken and I believe that I'm probably better prepared than I was 2 weeks ago to make a better decision, because there are things that we all know that our folks out there do, and they do a wonderful job. We don't really know everything that's going on with them and how it works. And I think it's a good idea that we listen, the whole council listens to them. It's our responsibility, it's to manage the funds that our citizens, and also take care of our citizens and people who need the help in our community. And I think it would be a good opportunity for everyone to hear from these folks. I know that I've heard from a couple of them, and I also heard from one of my councilmen who has also educated me a little bit more on what I should be looking at.
Okay. So what would, so we're ready to vote on this, what we'll do is, we'll bring it back, just to make sure we're clear. We'll hear from the groups that you recommended, your group recommended. That's who we're going to hear from. So if you, a yes vote would be that it goes back to finance, which would be next Tuesday.
No,
Go ahead.
not finance, the workshop.
A workshop. No, it'll go to finance next.
That would be an extra month. My motion was to table it till the next, the vote on this for the next month and put on the workshop, the presentation from the opioid committee and the agencies involved to be there too.
The agencies that you supported, that you recommended, just those four.
Just the four that were recommended
At
by
the
the
workshop.
opioid committee.
Let's, go ahead, Madam City Manager.
Finance Committee is next week.
Right.
And the agenda hasn't been posted yet, so if you wanted to do sooner, that could be an option available.
I'd rather
to you.
have the full council get the full presentation.
Understood, okay.
That way, everybody knows and understands.
And was there a date, so I heard date certain in the motion, was there an actual date
Yeah,
set
the
in that?
next council meeting in.
You said council meeting.
The workshop.
The vote on it and the next meeting be taking place in May,
The regular May
the
meeting.
regular meeting.
Regular
The
meeting.
workshop have the presentation from the opioid committee and have the agencies here to answer questions. And then in the meantime, you get a month, the finance department can go to the DOJ with their proposals that the opioid approved and see if they pass muster with DOJ.
So we're clear on that. I think the Attorney General's office would be more apt to respond quickly to this based on the council support. I don't think they're going to want to hear, oh, what do you think of this group? They're going to want to hear that this is what the council supports. And obviously, if it comes back, no, we don't support it, then we have to go back to the council again and reauthorize the money. So I disagree with Mr. Sullivan.
I just wanted to comment. You're absolutely right. I think going to the DOJ and asking, we're thinking about doing this or we're thinking about doing that is not going to go very far. If we present and say, this is what the council wants to award, here's a summary of what the award is related to, and here's how we feel that they can satisfy the requirement of proving and documented, did they assist in the abatement and reduction of opioid use? Because that's the key that was told to me very directly by the DOJ. It has to, the agency has to demonstrate how they work to prevent and reduce and abate opioid, and it has to be quantifiable and measurable, and there has to be results. So what I will do is I'll take these 4 presentations, I'll reach out to the contact I have at the DOJ, tell them exactly, and have him give me an opinion of whether it meets the requirements set by the state, which the opioid committee had in the RFP. I gave them in the RFP the requirements that it's pretty clear. There's a lot of different requirements, of course, and if the DOJ says, no, that one doesn't stand up, then that's going to be a no, it doesn't stand up. But I'm not going to ask, what they think. I'm just going to provide it, say, here's what we plan on doing, tell us, based on what you're seeing, does this meet the requirement or not meet the requirement? So I probably can achieve that pretty quickly, and has to be ready for the May regular meeting or the May workshop?
A regular.
Well, the workshop is just for the.
What workshop, May or April?
The April workshop should be the committee doing a report and the agencies. The month in between the next regular meeting was the time I was
Okay, I
hoping you
understand.
could get that answer for us.
Okay.
Counselor Fitzpatrick.
Just a process suggestion. If we decide to fund more than one agency, it would be prudent to have some language in the approving resolution that if indeed that agency is not accepted by the state, that it default to another one, and therefore it wouldn't have to come back to the governing body.
Thank you. Yeah, Counselor Corley, go ahead.
Thank you, Your Honor. I just want to reiterate that there's a lot of first-term counselors on this council. For myself, I could say that I'd like to have more information when I'm being asked to vote on a particular topic, especially when we're considering a significant amount of money. And I think that's a fair recommendation. It's not a super long delay. I would like to have more information before being asked to vote. Thank you.
I just wanted to follow up on Councilor Fitzpatrick's recommendation. So 3 of the 4 organizations that the opioid committee recommended were specific dollar amounts that were requested for specific programs. In other words, we're requesting $50,000. That's based on, 80% of that is going to a salary, 15% of that is going to benefits, so much is going to administration, et cetera, et cetera. So we didn't feel it was prudent to, if this organization has requested $50,000 for that specific position and program, that we give them $65,000 because we have no idea what they're going to do with that extra $15,000. And each one of these requests from the RFPs came in specifics. At least 3 of them, I think, asked for the entire amount, the entire $300,000. So that's a little bit different. But in the awards that we made, we were specific what the funds were going for. So I think we'd be hesitant to say, just send extra money to them unless a new proposal comes in.
Councilor Credo.
Yeah, just to piggyback on what Councilor Fontenot was saying as well, when you have, as we do in the opioid abatement, there are checks coming in all the time from the federal government. We don't know when they're coming in. We don't know what that amount is going to be. And we could get another check next week. And we could be right back at looking, what are we going to do with that money? So to have a goal to all that money to be used immediately, it's kind of this fictitious goal that we have because we don't know if we're going to be back in another month to do this whole thing. That's why our committee didn't vote to use every single dollar, because that money could be added to that next check that comes in another week, another month, or another year. So we foresee this committee having to re-adjourn at later times. So, you know, every year there has to be something sent to the state saying, here's where we are, here's what we have sent in. It's not that it has to be used every year. That would be my understanding. And I think Councilor O'Rourke could correct me if I'm wrong on that, as he's been overseeing that.
Any other comments?
Right, we just have to do a report every year from the finance department on what we spend it on, but we can roll it over year to, as we have been doing.
Right. Councilor Sullivan, Mr. Sullivan,
So
excuse me.
there is a publication that the DOJ does on the anticipated release of money. So I know where to look at that and find that. It's not that checks just appear that we don't know about. They do come in slow, but normally they do a publication and you can look and you can see, okay, there's 50,000 or 49,000 being going to be released in the next quarter. So that's something we could keep up on. But one of the things I made a recommendation on to keep this money going is, at the Finance Committee, was whatever agencies you allocate the funds to, when there is a new amount of money that does come in, and whether it's 30,000 or 50,000, automatically set the deployment of funds up to that agency. That way, the opioid committee isn't a committee in perpetuity and constantly reviewing and saving these monies and trying to find out new and creative ways to do things. That's an option, but you can do it. Keep the opioid committee going as a permanent standing committee, I suppose, and they take action when there's a new release of funds. But we don't know when that end date is of when these settlement funds are going to come through. So it's hard to pinpoint exactly, but the other thing is deployment. Holding the funds and not deploying in the community is worse than not having the funds. So we need to have a mechanism to get them out into the community as quickly as possible. But I'll keep monitoring the DOJ publications on when funds will be released, and then we can figure it out from there.
Okay. Any more discussion? Okay, so we vote on the motion to table to the city workshop.
May regular meeting, the vote on it. And at the workshop, have a presentation from the opioid committee and the agencies that are involved. And also.
Any agencies that were chosen.
The four that were chosen.
Four that were chosen.
And I'll second that, which I already did.
And roll call vote if you would.
Roll call vote. Any more discussion? Hearing none, we'll do a roll call.
Need a second for the roll call.
What's that?
Second for the roll call?
Second.
Second.
Credo.
Counselor Carolian.
Yes.
Counselor Hammond.
No.
Counselor Turner.
Yes.
Counselor Fontenot.
Yes.
Counselor Sullivan.
No.
Counselor Horn.
Yes.
Counselor Dejevois.
Yes.
Counselor Walker.
Yes.
Counselor Herman.
Yes.
Counselor Credo.
Yes.
Counselor Fitzpatrick.
Yes.
Counselor Richardson.
Yes.
Mayor Callahan.
No.
That's 10-3.
So it'll be in a workshop. Hear from the four groups. All right. Parking Commission. Director Scala.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So we had the first Parking Commission meeting on March 18th. There we started kind of going over their responsibilities and discussed how we're going to move forward with that. But as it turned out, we actually had two requests that would go to that commission to come to you. The first one, they decided not to bring forward to you. They decided that it did not warrant it. The second request was from China Palace, the owner, Stella Goon, and it involves the parking lot, the Columbus Lot South is what we kind of call it, which is 32 parking spaces right along Columbus, right next to China Palace. That parking lot was originally built in 2007 by Mrs. Goon. She fully funded the initial 16 spots. It was later expanded in 2016, in which she contributed up to $65,000 towards the bills because of the public-private partnership. And so what has happened is her employees generally park there, and it's a 2-hour limit. The coverage there, enforcement-wise, has been sporadic over the years, so there never really was an issue. We have 2 new enforcement officers, and they're enforcing. So the 2-hour limit doesn't really work for her employees that are there for extended periods of time. So she requested that perhaps we set aside a few spaces for her employees, explicit use, during work hours. I brought that to the commission. We discussed it. They weren't prepared to recommend that at that point to carve out 3-4 spaces for the employees where we have a parking permit program in the works. So what they recommended as a compromise was that they asked that the council temporarily suspend the 2-hour limit there. So it would default back to our ordinance that prohibits 24-hour parking in public lots. So that would allow her employees to park there for the time being until we bring a permit program to you for approval, for adjustment, for whatever. And then we'd go there, we would revisit it at that point to see if perhaps maybe we can arrive at some sort of agreement with Mrs. Goon and her employees and perhaps carve out a few spaces for them. But at this time, they weren't willing or not, they weren't ready really to recommend that to the council. So what they did ask is that the council entertain temporarily pausing the 2-hour limit for that lot and until the time that we have another alternative.
Question, go ahead, Councilor Carolian.
Your
and
Honor.
Walker.
Has she asked for a specific number of spaces?
Several was the request. We figured between 3 and 4 would probably do it out of the 32. We envisioned them being at the very entrance to the lot, the far end of it, which rarely get used anyway. But she didn't ask for a specific number, 10, 12.
A fair amount based on the contribution that she has made to the parking lot, is that correct?
Well, yeah, I mean, she's unique. It's a unique case that, she's a local business owner, an anchor business that has contributed I wasn't sure, I never got the number on how much the first parking lot cost, but she's probably contributed close to $100,000. Granted, it's, it's a parking lot that does benefit her business, so it was an investment in that area, but it's ours now. I mean, she built it, we adopted it. But she did not ask for a specific number. She just wanted some considerations for her employees.
Thank you.
Counselor Walker, go ahead.
I understand that, and I'll make a motion later if you needed one, but does the parking commission have a certain date and time that they meet?
We haven't hammered that out yet. Our next meeting is actually this Friday at 10 o'clock in the morning, because it seems like a morning meeting will work, or a day meeting works out better than an evening meeting for some of them. But we don't have anything hard and fast yet.
Reason why I asked is Mr. Toole that we just appointed to it was wondering when the date and time was going to be.
I didn't send him the invite because I was waiting for his nomination and approval, but I will send him all that information tomorrow and invite him to the meeting on Friday.
Thank you.
Thank you. Counselor DeJavois.
Director Scala, the permit program, is it envisioned that employees there might be able to get a permit for that lot when it's in place?
Well, it's funny, when we went over the initial kind of supply and where permits would be probably most required, this lot didn't really enter into it. I didn't even think about this lot. But now, yeah, we could certainly propose carving out 5 spaces or so of this for permit parking.
I could just follow up on that.
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, I'll just say that I'm in favor of this suspension of the 2-hour limit temporarily, but I'll just say that I think with respect to Ms. Goon's contributions, and certainly we want to honor and respect that, it's a fraught issue, right?
It is.
And I think we need to be very careful with the idea of, permanently giving parking spaces based on previous contributions and how long does that go? And there are a lot of really sticky questions, and I think this whole situation is a little bit, I mean, you said it's unique. I think it's problematic in many ways. And so I don't know that I would support just giving a certain number of spots, but I think that the permit process could afford an opportunity to come up with a resolution that works for her employees without making any commitments that we're going to regret later.
And that's what the Parking Commission kind of focused on. It's because that particular corridor, that Columbus corridor, does have the ability to be redeveloped. There's a large parcel of land right across the street next to KFC that very well could get redeveloped in the future. In the next 10 years, we don't know what that corridor is going to look like. So locking up a certain number of spaces in perpetuity would not be recommended. Mm-hmm. Having something on a short-term lease to be revisited every 5 years or whatever, that's something that may be suggested. But you're absolutely right. I mean, we don't know what's going to happen. And it is that slippery slope of because parking is a commodity now. And we do want to manage it to the best of our ability.
All right. We don't have a motion yet. I know we get the presentation, then ask your questions. So, Councilor Sullivan, you have a question?
Yes, thank you, Your Honor. It's kind of what Councilor DeJavois just said. And I'm imagining this is what the Parking Commission or Committee is working on, but I know we talked about this previously, and I did have some concerns, and this kind of goes to them, is having permitted parking in lots, and I'm assuming there's going to be a proportion that are permitted, a proportion that are not permitted, but it's also, like, how are you going to, is the intent, do you think, I know you probably don't have the answer yet, but is the intent that, like, 3 of these spaces would be designated to that business, and the ones downtown, 5 spaces in the Union lot would be designated to this business, and 7 to residents? Like, it seems to me that the concept of the permit parking for employees gets touchy because, and the other question is, how does it renew? At the end of the year, do I get first dibs at renewing my permit I had last year?
Currently, there's no plans or hasn't been suggested to do something similar in downtown. I mean, because of all the places we need to manage He's the best. It's downtown. And if anyone's been downtown over the last month since the lounge is open in Cinco's, or there's a show, it's getting very crowded. So I would not support that. A downtown specific for business sort of thing. I'm more of a increased supply, managed through monetization kiosks to make sure there's a turnover. This particular spot is once again unique. It probably will actually bring up the conversation about making this a pay lot to kind of control the flow down there as opposed to a timed lot. So, I mean, those are things we are going to address and discuss over the next few months before we come up with a final plan to bring before you. But you're absolutely right, and I don't envision that would be an option.
Thank you. Councilor Fontenot.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to make a motion to follow the committee's recommendation and temporarily remove the 2-hour time limit on the Columbus Street lot while maintaining the no overnight parking restriction.
Second.
Okay, any more discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes carry.
Thank you.
Public safety, Councilor Fontenot.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So the recommendation from the committee is to remove a sidewalk located at 899 Portland Street. This is 10.7.1, and that is my motion. This sidewalk, this crosswalk is over in East Rochester. It's located in front of, or it crosses in between the two churches, the Baptist Church and the Methodist Church down there. It was installed many years ago, and I'm not sure which came first, the crosswalk or the driveway, but they currently intersect, and the crosswalk dumps directly into the driveway of the Baptist Church. So they brought it to our attention as a safety issue. The committee agreed. There's crosswalks about 200 feet in either direction going in Portland Street, so Public Works doesn't feel that we need this crosswalk. And so our recommendation is to have that removed.
Any more, thank you. Any discussion? Hearing that, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes carry. 10.7.2.
The committee recommendation and my motion is to add a no left turn sign to the stop sign located at the end of Hanson Street. So when you're exiting Hanson Street onto Wakefield Street, everybody that lives here knows that you turn right, but apparently there was a visitor from out of town that did not realize that, made a left-hand turn and headed up onto South Main Street from Hampton Street. Everything went okay, but we don't want to see that happen again. So the motion is to add that onto the stop sign.
Councilor Walker, second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? No opposed. Good. All right. Public Works, anything, actually, you want to talk about the public hearing? You had Public Works last week?
Well, we had public hearing on Route 11 expansion. It was a comment hearing, not so much a back and forth public hearing, but, and the goal right now is to do the first phase, which would go from the interchange of exit 15 up to
Country Tire.
Almost up there, almost up to
Country Tire.
Sullivan Tire now. We're gonna
Yeah,
get it right.
yeah.
Almost up to there.
And it would be 4 lanes wide with a light at Neshoba to take care of the mobile home park. And because there's been so many accidents there in the last 8 or 10 years, and they had to jump through hoops basically to get the state to agree to put a light there
Right.
because it didn't meet the requirements. But the high incidents is what allowed them to do that.
Yeah, thank you. I want to add to that. I couldn't make that meeting, but I obviously met with Mr. Norris and in the city manager to get an update on that. And he's not here today, but I want to I really appreciate Director Norris's efforts this is not the first public meeting we've had several of them. And he actually took the businesses' concerns, he actually met with these businesses individually. You're not gonna make them all happy. But the key here, folks, and folks that are listening on the audience, it's a state road. The state has final say. So even though Mr. Norris went to bat for these businesses, the state came back and said, I get where you're coming from. Safety, we can't do it. They wanted originally they wanted a 5th lane there to go left or right, which would increase accidents by 60%. Public safety is the #1 priority of government. You can't ignore that. 2 is they wanted some of the businesses that if you're heading out of town, so would be on the right-hand side. A few of those businesses, I don't want to name them, wanted to be able to have a turn into that area. Mr. Norris went to bat for that. And the state said, no, it's not safe to do that turn. However, we can go less than a quarter mile towards the city where exit 15 is, because that's a lot of state-owned land, and we can do the turnaround there. So I thought that was a pretty good compromise. And I'm not going to put Mr. Scalar on the spot. I think he left now, but we get a lot of information of the traffic and the activity that happens on Route 11. And most of the activity that happens for those businesses when you're driving out of town, those folks are driving that way, not coming into the city. They're actually driving out. That's what the studies show. That's not public yet. I am saying it. Okay. Mr. Norris didn't get into it in that public meeting, but I have seen those stats, and I know you're aware of them too. So so Mr. Norris, you may have heard from some of these businesses. They're kind of upset, but Mr. Norris actually went to bat for them. And the bottom line is the state owns that road. They're paying for 80% of it. And public safety is the #1 priority. That's why you couldn't have a 5th lane in it. They had to put a median in there. That's all I wanted to say. Thank you.
The other thing, at the regular Public Works meeting, we got an update from the engineer and staff on the condition of the bridges in the city. And our bridges are in very good shape compared to other cities. We have one that is quote-unquote red listed, but it's just at the top level of that. They're going to be doing some work on 3 or 4 bridges over the next year or so. But most of our bridges are in very good condition. And the ones that aren't, these repairs will bring them up to a better condition so that if we can just do the maintenance on them, we should have good bridges for a good long time.
Oh, great report on that. And I'll turn it over to our city attorney. I know he's outside right now. This is hey, I know you've been waiting for this, Attorney O'Rourke. I appreciate you being here today, and I appreciate you that you didn't put Mr. Crockle on the spot. So right now, we're at unfinished business, and 11.1, amendment to Chapter 275 of the zone ordinances regarding dimensional requirements in Granite Ridge District. Councilor Fitzpatrick, in his rights as city councilor, asked for it in writing, which our rules and regulations require it to be in writing. If a councilor asks for it, request it. Are we ready?
Seth, Director Creighton is printing out copies for everybody right now.
All right.
So
I
maybe
tried my best to add on because I didn't see him in here.
So we have.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, we'll move to. Yeah, move to adopt the amendment.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
I move that we table that item and go on to item 12.
I was going to suggest that. Good. We need a 2/3 vote.
And that's how you use a table.
Right. Beautiful. This would be 2/3 vote, correct?
Second. Or a table?
We're going to table it, but then to bring it back?
Then you have to vote to bring it back.
I can bring it back.
You just table it, or you
you wait
if it's
till
ready
they show
now, I withdraw the motion.
All right.
Withdraw the second.
I said, he withdraws the second. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We got more copies coming.
Thank you.
Yeah, yeah.
Looks acceptable.
Make sure everybody is taking their time on it.
I think this folks still reading it. When you're ready, just give me a nod and we'll continue. Ready? Council Richardson, you ready? Good? Okay, I wasn't sure. You didn't look up. All right. For the city attorney, if we vote on the changes, does it go back to the planning board?
I believe what Director Creighton is saying is it doesn't have to, right?
There, in my opinion, there's no substantial changes. It's wordsmithing and clarifying what we tried to say the first time.
Okay, thank you.
Make a motion, we accept.
I think I got to read it, then we can amend it.
Correct.
Okay. Unfinished business, 11.1, amendment to chapter 275 of the zone ordinance regarding dimensions requirements in the Grand Estate Ridge District. Second reading, consideration for adoption.
Move to adopt.
As amended, right?
As amended. Right. No.
No, you have to do the
to
motion
adopt.
first. After the motion to adopt is read and second, then the motion to
Right.
amend.
Yep. Second, is there a second? Do we have a
I
second?
second it, but I have a question.
Go ahead.
I'll second it. It might be clerical. It doesn't need to be corrected. I don't know how clear it has to be, but things such as 2 now becomes, 2 is gone, so 3 becomes 2, and that cascades down throughout. And then D is double listed, so those just need to be made later.
When we send that to the code company that puts our code online, we deal with all that on there, so the numbers there are just for your reference now, but at the end of the day, we put it correctly.
The wording I'm fine with, everything.
So we just need, so now we need an amendment to
Make a
adopt.
motion that we amend the underlying motion with what was distributed to us.
Second.
Discussion. Councilor DeJavois.
Thank you, Your Honor. One issue and one recommendation. The issue is now under 3C, you actually have it repeated twice about the additional 25 feet in height. There's one in black and one in red, and but also it just to avoid redundancy, since we're essentially saying the same thing under both B and C, can we just say it once as a paragraph D about adding an additional 25 feet in height in either case? I mean, it's the exact same statement, so it seems like it would be cleaner to just have it said once and apply to both cases.
Yeah, from an interpretation and administration perspective, that would work also.
Okay.
We just got redundant on that.
Yes, a couple times.
Anything else? Thank you for bringing that up. Okay, so now we vote on the amendment, correct?
Amendment with one addition.
With one amendment with one addition. Okay, any more discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes carried. Now we vote.
Vote as amended.
Now we're going to vote on the amendment to Chapter 275 of the zoning ordinances regarding dimensional requirements in the Granite State Ridge District as amended. I need a
So moved.
second?
Second.
Okay, any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes carry. New business, this is just for public hearing. 13.1, resolution to fund and purchase the sales agreement for the property located at South Main Street and Sawyer Ave. First reading, refer to public hearing. And we're going to do that at the next meeting, 2 weeks? Okay. So it'll be on the 15th of April. And we do not have any non-meeting and non-public meeting. So without any objection, I adjourn the meeting.